Welcome, punters, dribblers, and what a day for you guys. Traders and investors, to another podcast from Traders Community, brought to you by traderscommunity.com. So, I guess today's theme should probably be Jerome Powell doing his best Russell Crowe impersonation. Are you entertained? There was one of the most volatile days and probably caught a lot of people's surprise the way it reacted to such a high interest rate. It was the highest since 1994, I believe, 0.75, and it was the previous month was the highest since Alan Greenspan. So we had two of them back to back. So pretty significant moves. The market, as we know, is full of punters and dribblers, so we know how that reacted and why we keep everything technical. So without further ado, we have the glorious Madavi here, and we have Rock and Johnny hiding back there. So, and remember, this is not financial advice. It is musings on the market of what we saw, what we've been doing, and how others are seeing it, and sharing what people are actually looking at and what they are doing. So the market's pretty well gone to plan. I think we gave everyone a pretty good upgrade of what the market was thinking come Friday as far as the 75 basis point rise. And what they do, and what we've said multiple times, is they orchestrate what they expect. And what they want the market to expect to keep it easy. So by the time it came today, it was already a fait accompli. Oh, okay, 75 basis points, so it didn't rock the market. In fact, the reaction to the market today was more on taking profits, taking losses in a thin market, so everything was exaggerated. Remember, as I've said before, a lot of big guys stay out of these markets and that increases volatility because of the volatility, right? So you get what's called a relief rally. And indeed, on the spin of one comment, one action, where Jerome Powell said it's not locked in that it's 75 basis point next month. In fact, what he said was it's not going to be locked in that it has to be such a significant raise. Meaning that curve finish. And that's what we've tried to really smash in. Watch bonds and watch currencies if you're going to trade it, because the machines will get them. You need to have advantage. That 10-year moved on that comment, and we were able to not only take short on the SPOOs, but get long. But even knowing that, and the speed of it was dramatic. It bounced over 100 handles from down there. So keep that in mind. And so it was a punter's paradise as we got our three guests on the big screen there today. So we look at what the market did and where it is right now. So you wouldn't think we had a 75 basis point rise on one hand, right? But remember, you're trading in a full information market, you're trading against a herd mentality, you're trading against machines, and it's all maths. So on a 60-minute basis, right through to 1 minute, you want to be looking at these. You don't want to go too tight or you'll jump on anything. So the S&P right now as we speak is 3808. The move I was talking about, which was a GIF, look at that, minus 3/8, then bonds change, and you had this divergence, right? It was on the 1 minute trades charts, it was also down there at minus 1/8. So minus 3/8 already told you not to be short, or certainly not to add to shorts. And then when you saw remember, it's all the character and how the market reacts. Prior to the market, we ran up to this 5/8 level, and that was plus 1/8. Or was it 8/8? I'm trying to think on 1 or 2. We'll look at it when we get to SPOOs. But look at the dramatic moves, right? These are on that, and they're on reaction. So whether what your opinion is, it doesn't really matter. It matters how the market reacts. And that's what is a death of many of a trader, right? And you size accordingly. This is the S&P. Other markets, as when Madavi will talk about the Nasdaq, were even more dramatic, right? This is his boring old S&P. It's a 120 handle range there. So as I said, are you entertained? Even a little Russell was 67, looks like 60 handles. So it's trading 1734 right now. Volatility, remember I've always said, what's that? So this was the rollover on the VIX thing. But look at how that came off. So I've cautioned about there not being real fear. Now, what's real fear? It means whether they really believe on it, it's still got the pricing spreads, and that's why it comes off so much. Nasdaq 1166.30. Nat Gas, big violent move again. We did correct part of that move yesterday, Freeport, but that's a real thing. The question really comes, how much of this price at 754 is from LNG, right? So that Freeport LNG is not coming on for a while. Oil 116, that got up to that nice short yesterday at 128. That was a couple of things. We had the EIA report, which was a build. Yes, I understand, and please stop bloody sending or tagging that it's actually a draw if you factor in SPR. Well, at the end of the day, anyone trading oil that knows what they're doing knows about that SPR. We know that. But how the futures react and the particularly algorithms is off the crude oil number, right? And really, that number doesn't factor too much into this, right? A lot of it's already built in. There's a war on words going on between the US President Biden literally threatening US oil companies. It's bizarre when your own president's doing that, claiming they're going to do this, that, and the other for production. Now, on the website, you can go to the ExxonMobil earnings report, and you'll see in there it's updated with Exxon's response to that. It's also on the Twitter feed. Have a good read. If you don't understand energy, that'll give you a bloody good idea. And why so you would think that the energy companies and the current Democratic administration could sit down together for the good of USA, for the good of the USA people, even the world. But no, it's just constant sniping and biting. And so the idea is to get, obviously, you can be in politics 101 when you're 7 years old, working out what's going on in the playground, and that's basically the level. You would think America was the biggest oil producer at one point. It's the only country really increasing production. You'd think you'd sit down with your own asset if your real intention was not to focus. So the idea is to focus on that. Before that, it was to focus on Putin, away from your own policies and ignorance. Now, I get it. So drilling hasn't been hurt in America. That's only because there was a court case against federal drilling, right? That lost, and so state drilling, for example, is Texas and all that. That's true. But the main problem in climate, oil's part of it. It's also natural gas and coal through, we all know what it all is, and it gets construed between and what actually has gone on. There's a multitude of factors. We're not going to go into them all. Fukuyama, Germany, Nordstrom, etc., etc. Oil's a little bit different. Fracking's your big deal. Most of Europe has banned fracking. It's in their bucket pipeline. There's a lot of stuff. But what do you pack that just back in the box and look at what's right in front of you? They got a US president has been attacking US oil. Now, if it was that simple, for a start, we're running at 95 refinery capacity in Pad 3. What's Pad 3? That's Gulf Coast, right? Overall, it's still almost 93, 94. So where's that going to come from? As far as just starting a refinery, it's very difficult to do. FDA, EPA, which is very important. You don't want to give up those goals. And I find it amazing if it was generally about the environment and pollution that they'd be begging this. I even see ESG trusts and funds buying energy stocks, carbon. I mean, so it makes you wonder that what's the truth with all this? There's a lot of difference between coal and natural gas and wind as well. So read all that, make your own minds about it. Bottom line, though, is what we saw today. Oil price needs to go down if you're going to get inflation down. Right? Energy is important, everything. That's the point of the whole thing. And if you work together by other means, like you have, and this was what Exxon made the point, they actually been trying to increase this. They actually invested money during the pandemic when they lost a buttload, right? So just think of all that. Try and be rational. Put your partisan politics out the bloody door and think rationally, right? For both sides. And because if you don't, you're as bad as what's going on. But put yourself in the hands of big bad oil and think, okay, we know this isn't going to last. We know the cost of money is going up. We know we can't get access to debt anymore. So we got to be self-funding, basically. So what do we do here? Do we put the company at risk, the shareholders at risk, and effectively the country at risk by being unreasonable or just almost negligent? So, but we have this situation. Why don't we sit down with the administrators and try to get this done? And that's the problem we have, right? So, and you're being led to that's not what the situation. The trouble is, politically on the partisan side of the GOP, etc., it's just war, war, war. So therefore, it makes it even more difficult for the Democrat, the Biden administration, to then want to show any weakness of their partisan help. And it doesn't help with who you've got running as your energy secretary. Just do yourself a favour and look into her. So that's kind of all the background. How that plays out, we don't know, but keep an eye and be responsible with your own investments. At the end of the day, in oil and gas, look at what goes on, right? So as a constant redirection, if any of you know Montessori teaching, that's basically what goes on. Redirect from your own policy, your own ignorance. Take turns in blaming big oil or Vladimir Putin. That's pretty well, I think, where we're at, Madabi. What do you think? I mean, comes down to blaming those two people. He's in a bunch of trades, so we'll see. We'll come back to that. Let's look at, I think we kind of covered the overview there. So the Fed was pretty much because they'd sold it so well, they took the fear off that it isn't automatically going to go up. That came the same day. Also, he mentioned energy, and I think Biden knows everything I just said. You would like to think so, but it was important probably to say all that when you're talking about energy on a Fed day, and believe me, they keep an eye on that market, right? And particularly from a political point of view, how low his popularity is and all that. So that kind of covers all that, I think. Let's have a look at...
we got the carrot and the stick deal.
The what?
The carrot and the stick.
I don't know.
Biden gave the stick instead of the carrot.
Oh, yeah, he kind of made himself look like a fool. So you got to think that he knows better than that, but maybe not.
Well, I mean, it sounded like a threat to me. I don't know.
But it's a threat. But when you look at the facts, it can't be done anyway. It's pretty ignorant, yeah. I think that's exactly how it's...
I'm just saying what it sounded like.
Oh, yeah. I think it was meant to sound like that for the partisan base. You know?
That was just a big stick he's trying to pull.
Well, I know where that stick is. So let's...
I don't know. That's all I'm saying. I don't know.
Just read the Exxon statement and which are the facts, right? Rather than the hyperbole, which is interesting. And I haven't looked, but I'm sure Chevron and Phillips and everyone else. I can give you the tip, living here in Houston and knowing a lot of these people are very tired and frustrated because it's like, hang on, will you stop? I mean, remember in Texas, we went through this with Donald Trump, with the whole Tillerson thing, right? So it's like, so it's not even a Democrat-Republican thing. It's government versus free enterprise.
Well, he's got someone on his mind, I believe. His letter is kind of, he said the guy's name like 5 times.
Oh, which one? Which letter are you talking about? The Puton one or the oil company one?
No, the stick one. The first one I went up.
He's going about oil companies.
His mind all day.
Yeah.
No, it was the name of somebody that was there 5 times.
I don't know. I don't remember. Are you talking about? Yeah. Well, I just said that, and you said no.
I didn't hear Putin. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, Putin. Here's one for the punters and dribblers, and this is worth a good dribble. Do yourself a favor, learn French, or get on. It's probably not going to be on Google Translate.
Get hooked on phonics.
But go and find out what putain means in France. Okay, in French. Putin. Then understand what Macron, who's like a walking joke now in Europe, if he wasn't already, and we already know he's with 70% of French, but understand why with his response. So understand what putain means. Macron, Putin. Do yourself a favour, you'll have a good giggle. Okay, S&P. So we went through how we traded that today. It was pretty clinical. Look at your daily chart. This is all clinical stuff. We talked about how we took profit when it got the double bottom fail, the gap fill yesterday. Today, we've come down. We didn't get to that level. We walked through how the market reacted to the statements, etc. So again, constant work. If you're an extreme bull, you're obviously hoping this gap gets filled and all that. But let's be real. What's going on? And hopefully I explained it pretty good. On the weekly, you can see what's going on. It's all this stuff at the old 8/8s. There's that gap again. We're bright red. It was good. So as I've said before, most of the big people stay out today for risk and VAR. So that's often why you get the big move happen the day after. So it looks like nothing really happened today if you go close to close, or the amount, where it was just before the FOMC, but as I said, we had a 140 handle bounce on SPOOs. Or range, not so much bounce. I guess it was a bounce of that magnitude. And if we look at 5 minutes, you can again see this was pretty easy and clinical. Minus 3/8, right? That was your buy if you had orders on profits. You probably bought at minus 2/8 actually. The bonds started doing their stuff almost at the bottom. So the turning point was definitely is those comments from I was going to say Vladimir. You had me nearly saying Putin, but Powell. I was trying to say Powell. Powell, Putin. They're both P's, I guess. They're both on the naughty list. Anyway, we rallied hard there, 8/8s. It did not get to 8/8s, but I remember because I had a sell order up here. Never got near it. So it's only 4 handles. So really, on the 1 minute, the tanker was about here. That was so it's very volatile. And because of that, the slippage is pretty big. Look what it did. It went right. This time, though, gave you actually a sell when it failed at plus 1/8 and came through the previous high. And we've dribbled up since then. So you can see what's going on. Keep your frame. You know your frame, plus 2/8. So if you do yourself a favour, use your Murray for this part. And then watch how... if I ever get the time, we'll do a pure Murray math class. Pure Tankinichi. The resemblance. There's a lot more to Ichimoku, as I've said, than a bloody cloud, right? Its relationship with Chikou, Tankin, and Cajun is very important. Okay, enough of the bloody S&P. Let's bring on Madavi. He's the NASDAQ man, king. So here we are, mate. Here is your weekly. So you can see there's that level from yesterday. And the gap.
Yeah. I mean, today was, the moves were there. It was fantastic. But it was just, I guess what happened is a lot of people have been looking to this day to really come in and buy. And I think no matter what Powell said, this market was bound to go up. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, it was felt really oversold, 100%.
I mean, everything he said was just a bunch of crap. First of all, promised the market one thing.
I have one question. Did he say about Putin? Did he mention Putin?
He did mention Russia.
Okay.
He did not say, I think the senile gal. So, and that's, I mean, but for example, when you write a letter, you don't put it like another country's president on that letter 5 times. I guess you've never seen a letter between Australia and New Zealand, but during rugby or cricket season, that happens all the time. They say Putin 5 times?
No, they don't say Putin. They say the leader of Australia and New Zealand, but it's all in good fun, right? It's not.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just having a bit of. Exactly.
And and the funny thing is, he's trying to blame it off this guy, that guy. We all know who's to blame is themselves, who's basically causing all these messes.
Well, here's the thing: as I mentioned when you were in that last trade, I don't think you heard, but all I'm hearing is a blame. In fact, that's what. So we're blaming big oil. We're blaming Russia. We're blaming everyone. Blaming the kitchen sink. We were blaming effectively Powell by calling him in like a school teacher, 2 weeks ago. So it's everyone's fault, and that's not what. So when you're a populist, firstly, what I've seen happen in the United States has been dramatic in the last 15, 20 years. So even if tradition, and in fact, it's not just here, it's around the world. But basically, if you have a strong leader, you don't win the election, but you still respect him, even if you didn't vote for him. It's got to the point now where it's gone beyond even partisan. So you're getting your own party splinter. And you saw it in England very much. We just saw a vote of confidence against, what's his name over there? Johnson, right? You just saw the same thing go on in Australia with the politics. You can pick a country, really. But here, America's the leader of the free world, supposedly, so it should be held to a higher standard. As Madavi's mentioned, it's just, if you put a chart up on it, it's just dramatically bad. And so a lot of people wanted Biden in because he wasn't Trump. Fair enough. Trump was very divisive and all that. But we're now getting, as Madavi said, and I don't want to get political, but you got to call a spade because it affects things, affects the market. It's just a constant blame game, and it's like, I don't know, it's like the kid at school. We've been talking about a lot of kids in school lately that just keeps getting the answers wrong and just repeats them and becomes more and more and more unpopular, just spins them and blames someone more and more. The belief that, if any of you got kids, when they're 3 or 4 year old, you go through that period where if you believe you say it enough, mum or dad never saw it, right? I think, is that out of tune what I'm saying? That's what I'm seeing. That's what it feels like to me, Madavi,
Yeah, I hear you. It is, this whole, so he blames the stuff on Russia, right? I mean, they all had hands in this Ukraine things, the Obama administration, which he was a part of, to cause this whole thing. And he's never gave it back off channels where this thing could have been resolved in the mess it is today.
Maybe. My personal view is I don't have a very good view of Putin. I think Putin saw a very weak leader and took it that way.
Hey,
but at the end of the day, it's not. These problems happened before Putin, is my point, and I think your point too. And then,
yeah. I understand.
And it's not big oil's fault, the whole bloody thing. I mean, I don't know what you can't look.
I'm just talking about he's putting everything.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's trying to say he had nothing to involve with it. Yeah.
Everything that has happened today, he's got to take some responsibility, put on big boy pants.
Yeah. Well, I think we've mentioned that before. 2014 in Ukraine. Do yourselves a favor.
Yeah. So, but even this, instead of he's fighting this war, trying to take it down. What does he do? He sends weapons. He doesn't send food. He sends more weapons.
Well, let me tell you this then. Let me ask you this question. If he doesn't send them, how does Ukraine defend themselves?
It's gonna end the same way it would end it without him.
Well, I disagree on that, but
well, it just doesn't matter. Been saved, but either know how it is. This escalation is going on, and he's got to take some responsibility for some of that. That's it.
Well, He's not going to. We know that's not going to happen because. If we even just forget the whole Russia-Putin thing, you don't even see that domestically with the oil and gas situation, right? Yeah. So there's no way you're going to see it on that. But
my point is, this guy does not just trying to. He's on top of the mountain, and what do they say? When you're on the top, it's highest mountain you can be, right? Shit rolls downhill.
I think I've heard that one before.
Yeah. So he thinks he's king of the hill right now. And he's like, nothing can roll on me. I'm on the very top.
Well, to be honest, I can't really work it out. I don't know if it's just a total charade, or he just hopes it comes good, or I really don't know. But at the end of the result, it's been very, very bad for. But it's not just. I mean, look at the end of the day. We shut down the world for 2 years. What did they think was going to happen? Printed all this money non-stop, took all responsibility off. I mean, so that's what today's Fed was about, right? It was all about that.
Example of it. He made a bunch of promises before he before he got elected. Now let's go look at all those promises he gives. He's got a great track record of Donnie. Maybe even Donnie's even batting better.
Printed all this money.
And it's a desert, and it's a bumpy
can't accomplish nothing. So his presidency is a shithole.
I mean, it's so
everything he promised in the campaign trail, none of it's come true.
Right. Well, a lot of them were they're just not possible, right?
Dude,
but what I've seen, just being someone who's pretty understanding of energy. From day one, well, even the whole campaign, it was all bullshit. It's been bullshit for a long time. There's been no transition policy from any of it. Like, it's good. I think most people want no pollution and all that sort of thing. But you can't. I mean, it's just everything's mindless. But that's one thing. But now to turn around, and this is what's got the people you want to help you really pissed off.
Absolutely.
Or not trusted in oil and gas is because, hang on, you try to shut us down, you don't want us to produce, now you're begging us to produce, and now you're saying we're the bad guys. Well, and you can't even sit down and talk. Just sit down and talk rationally.
Let me tell you how funny this is, all right? He goes to Venezuela, right? He names some waiter boy as the interim president, but he's talking to the Journal of asking him to help him out with oil. And he's like, man, this guy really doesn't know how to say please or can I help you too?
Yeah, it's constant threats. It's constant threats.
He thinks he's going to bring out the stick, and people are like, woo! Everybody laughs at him, telling me, old man, go put on your diaper.
Yeah, I did forget about that.
Saudi Arabia still doesn't want to talk to him, and that's pretty bad.
Yes, the Saudi, so I think we talked about it. The sad thing is, I think most people don't have a very good view of
the thing is,
of MBS and these sort of guys. The sad thing with oil up here, it's emboldened that bad behaviour all over again. But yeah, it's not so much, forget being senile and that. He's meant to be, the whole point of the Democrat Party is, they always say it's freedom and looking after the little man, and we're not fascist. He's behaving as fascist as you can get, really. Well, like you said, the big stick, right?
But he doesn't scare nobody.
Well, we know that, but he's behaving like it. As you said, threatening big oil, threatening Venezuela. Hang on. Let's backtrack on Venezuela. So I remember when Trump was president, they put on this guy who was a waiter or a barkeeper, a young guy anyway that was in Parliament, all of a sudden nominating president. And obviously, we all know Venezuela's doing it really, really tough and bad. They obviously want a good leadership or money or whatever. But this guy was so unpopular, and don't hit us up with conspiracy nonsense. Even the Americans walked away from him like, shit, we might have picked the wrong guy, right? Remember that? So we never heard of him. So I have contacts in Venezuela, and so no, I give you the tip. No one talks about this guy. Pretty well the military runs that country, and Moderna's still your figurehead. That's well known. So it blows my mind when I thought Madavi was winding me up. I mean, am I wrong, mate? I said, surely not. And he sent me this thing. It is a showing, and it just blows me away. So I said to someone the other day, I said, every time I think it can't get worse, the energy policy or the geopolitics here, it just gets worse. What's a mate?
I said it to you yesterday.
I thought you were whining. I didn't even want to look at it because I was busy. No, you got to look at it. So I looked at it and went, oh, you're shitting me, right?
Dude, the guy's so unpopular, he can't even go out and eat.
Well, I don't think it's even a question of popularity. I think no one even knows who he is. Right, and he's being made out or called, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he being called as the president of Venezuela right now?
Yeah, but the United States and all the sisters that follow.
So just get your head around that, and in an energy crisis, and it's almost the same. It's the same, but it's different. Like if Biden would get in a room with the heads of these big oil companies, which are American, right? Yeah, I guess he hates their Texan for the most part. Get him in a room together and say, look, guys, this is for the good of America. If he said, put his ego and said, look, Maduro or the general, whoever, all in front, hey, guys, let's get together. I can help your country. You can help my country. You can help Europe. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? That would be amazing leadership. That's what you should do. Simple mediation. All you have to come back to is, well, they don't want to do that. They don't want to improve it. They don't want to fix it. Or you're a total megalomaniac, fascist pig, right? So are you that? Is this intentional? Or do you think you're being run by something else? You can see where conspiracy theories come from. You can see where the hatred just gets deeper and deeper. How do you not do any of that? That's what blows me away.
Look, every country's dealt with, he said, what do you say, campaign? Oh, I'm going to get right back into the Iranian nuclear deal.
I forgot about that. I forgot about that one. Yeah, that was going to be fake.
Everything is a failure because he tries to bully and bring up big sticks and nobody.
Well. So here's what's rather scary or unbelievable, whatever word. Everything that we don't like about Trump is what he's doing. But without it, right? So it's the same sort of thing. That's my point, right? But because America's become so partisan, you got your diehard Bidens and your diehard Trumps. I mean, they're getting less and less, right? It's getting more to the middle with most rationality. But then all Biden's done with the January 6th thing, look, whether you believe it or not, it's kind of irrelevant.
That's embarrassing.
The whole bit of Biden, the whole speech is we're going to bring everyone together. So he's divided America even more. He's now managed to divide probably the most important industry in America, energy. It's not services or finance, which someone told me once, of the real extreme left persuasion. I go, well, you still got to eat, you got to do, and lo and behold, they're finding out. And then you've divided, Venezuela, which is by the way, the biggest oil reserves in the world. America's one of the few countries that actually has the refining capacity. And guess what? The big oil's been accused of here. I mean, it's just mindless. You could go on and on. So we're talking about the stock market, the Federal Reserve, and oil price inflation. It's all related. Now, everyone wants to shit on Powell. What is he meant to do when this is what he's got to deal with? We have a mate of ours, this bags Powell. Oh, Powell should have done this. So just imagine the situation you got. of a country that never, ever got out of being destroyed in 2008. Moral hazard. All they did was give money to the wealthy and the banks. Basically let them off. Then they shut down the world. So those who were just probably getting better, do yourself a favour, look at charts of house prices, for example, which is Americans' biggest asset. And individuals, probably all Westerners, I don't know. But I know it is here. So they pump all that money in, they shut them down. I mean, unbelievable. That's another one. You get me agitated now, mate.
Oh yeah, man. Just don't worry about it, But Biden, the only things he's brought in, I think, came in is high inflation, war, and school shootings. So that's been up since.
It's really sad when you look at it coldly, and you want to look at the best, and you're just like, man, Now, here's the other thing, though. So what do I think? Here's what the other. But it doesn't know.
Hey, mate. Remember, we got to keep him alive because he dies. The second in charge is even worse.
well, that's scary. That's scary. But it's not. You can't put it all on him. I mean, if Trump had been half likable to more than he would have stayed. But even then, that could have been a disaster. It would have been. He's too much of a megalomaniac. The trouble is, I see the same kind of guy here, really. That sounds unbelievable.
I haven't said anybody says they like Biden. I don't know if he's likable either.
Right. Well, I think it was sold to us as this likable old grandpa.
Oh yeah, he was Uncle Joe. You go drink your Sailor Joe beer with.
Well, here's an interesting talk. All that aside, a mate of mine who's very, very good oil guy and knowledgeable and he's kind of a little bit left and right like me on some of the views, libertarian. Like what a rational person is it, isn't he? He's like, well, we know that unless, God, I don't know how this doesn't happen, but we know the Republicans will take charge again in November of their bit that's not president, right? So the fervent anti-Biden people, why don't they pull their head in a little bit so that the oil companies and the energy companies can at least sit down and try to work something out? We know Biden's a problem, but he's not going to be in charge, right? Or the Democrats, whoever's causing the problem. So it's just nuts on every angle is the point. You know what I mean? It's just like...
Kind of burned all the bridges when you come out with a stick everywhere.
Oh, I know he has done that.
It's kind of hard to go back with a pillow.
So... It's almost you got to be the bigger man or woman is what I'm trying to say at this point. I mean, fuck. It's a difficult situation. I don't get it.
At least he didn't present himself as a deal maker. That's he
kind of did. He did. Or the peacemaker or the deal maker. It's all the same.
Oh, yeah. He's not a peacemaker. That old guy's senile. He just wants war everywhere.
Well, yeah, the industrial military complex. So anyway, let's put all that in the part. So there was another good thing when we're talking about great politicians and banks in the world today that's kind of gone unnoticed because of the Fed and oil's getting threatened. But the ECB had an emergency meeting today, but they said that was so. Here's what's interesting. So there's really knowledgeable people that we know, Madavi and I, that just have these bizarre views of what's going on. So that was well documented that it was going to happen because if you recall the ECB meeting last Thursday, Christina Lagarde said, look, we all know she's out of her depth and all that, and she's a career politician, French finance minister, head of IMF, now gets this gig. Amazing, really, if you look at background and the charges. But anyway, she's there. We know it's a stuff up. But on Thursday, they said they were going on, and we all know and the reason these people delay is because they all know it's built on sand, right? That's why Powell obviously delayed, and that's why they haven't done anything there. But anyway, they talked about the new buzzword is fragmentation. So I don't know, so many people go, what the freak is that, mate? So what fragmentation isn't... Well, yeah, it's a nice way of saying what they used to call the pigs, which is Portugal, India. Did I say India? Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain, right? The most vulnerable states in Europe. So they're using fragmentation. That's how far we've gone down politically correct, right? So just think of the nonsense that goes on. Just say it for what it is. The reason they're being like that is there's such a division now between North and South in Europe. It always was there. Different cultures and that. Basically, North works, South doesn't. Not literally in all senses, but we all just go look at the numbers. So I think this was meant to happen. I think the reason they called emergency meeting personally was so they could slip under the radar of the Fed meeting, right? That's what I'm thinking. But anyway, nothing came out of it. They just said, oh, we got to think on our feet. Everything's different. That's all we got out of it, right? But what does that mean? It means they already know it's totally screwed in the form of pigs or fragmented states, that they're going to have to do something else, right? They've done the QE. They know, we've already know, the market's told them. We saw the spreads between the Bund and the Italian bonds, specifically, right? So this is the whole thing going on. And this is in the middle, and Europe's pretty, so we go back to our boy Biden. Europe's been pissed off for a long time because they believe that, and Madavi's view is this as well, is that Biden antagonized Putin. It's like push the ants nest to the ant where the ants came out, right? I'm more of the view that Putin knew that the bugger was so weak, so he thought he'd strike, right? But yeah, it could have been done differently. There's other plays of Germany and all that. Bottom line is, they now have the problem. Europe has the problem. These massive energy costs, and it's easy for us to say do the right thing and all that. So to the point, they've now politically correct the term of fragmentation, right? So just think of what a mess, right?
Sorry, mate. Purchase this, right? I mean,
which one?
The chart yesterday. It shows like by the day how much each country gets it. I sent you a single.
Which one? You sent me a few.
It's a one with a running clock, shows what countries or how much they're buying still from Russia of oil.
Oh yeah, and that goes on for a while because it has to for European, the landlocked ones. So that's one thing.
But to see it is to understand it how large it really is.
Right. Well, Russia was. So basically over the last 10 years, the biggest oil producers in the world are America, Saudi Arabia, and Russia, right? One of the biggest natural gas in the world, and actually the biggest reserves for natural gas, sorry, my brain left me, is Russia. So you take them out of the equation like that. So not only did they not plan transition from ESG to put us in this, then we had the COVID lockdown, which killed a lot of production anyway, and projects, right? For example, pipelines and whatever. Then you go to war, right? Which Putin obviously used that to advantage, but that's a whole different topic. The point is, as Madavi's pointing out, shit, that's a lot. And India has said, bugger you, we're a poor country. Half our country can't feed themselves. So, and fair enough, how can the rich West, entitled West, and that you could go on about refineries with that too. We're happy to have Indians and Chinese have polluting refineries as long as they're not in America or England or whatever, right? You could go on for hours about all this stuff. Bottom line is, there's so many moving parts in this and so many unexpected consequences that it's just a bloody maelstrom of negligence and ignorance, and
it's crazy.
It's mindless. It's just like insane, right? And so the transition one makes me laugh. But so then there's always an excuse. No one takes responsibility. What did you think was going to happen when you shut the bloody world down for 2 years, right? For 2 years. For a virus we all know is bad, but look at the other consequences. People warned about this.
Just look at what it did over the virus shots, and now
well, mental illness, but forget all the medical stuff. We're just talking about shutting down the economy, right? And then killing so many things. It's just so the ignorance. So I get why a lot of people think this is intentional. I just think my personal view is for conspiracy theory people, I think these politicians are so bad, they're the bottom of the drawer because no one wants to do that job. If you are good, you just get destroyed on social media or by lies or whatever. Even whether you like Trump or not, they've shown that all that stuff, the so-called dossier are pissing on him in hotels, is all bullshit, the Steele one. That's just something mainstream. Imagine what happens in all these other countries. We just know it because it's America, right? That's just one thing. So no one good wants to do anything. Just look at Elon Musk, whether you like him or not, whether he's, there's all theories, he's this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, he goes to buy a media company, and it doesn't matter that he's the richest man in the world, how he got there, whatever he did. But it's just like, you see it and you just must go, why does this, if he's a politician, why would you do it? Right? And the answer usually comes back because if it's a businessman, they're making money. So then you scale back to politicians because these bastards, that's all they're in it for is making money. Do yourself a favour. Look at leaders of countries like America and look how rich they are after they're finished from politics. It'll blow your freaking mind. And it's not just here. Germany, Schroeder. The whole problem, in my mind, if you want to put it on one guy, put it on Gerhard Schroeder, who was Chancellor of Germany, and put it on him and Putin, their little deal. Do yourself a favour, go look at that. And then it just went on and on and on. But anyway, well, we went on about that. We talked about the markets. Let's look at those energy stocks.
I just wound up over here. So
that's all right. It's good for people to hear it. It's good for people to understand what's going on that don't know it.
So they're not working for you and I.
No, that's the whole thing,
they
right?
got a boss that pulls their string, tells them what to do, and they're doing this. So that's where we're at. If they want to make politics good, like I said, they got to take out these backer money. The government pays.
The lobbying, you mean?
Lobbyists. So the government gives every candidate X amount of dollars, and that's all they can use to run their campaigns from and to run it. That would be so they don't have to go get these backers and be basically their servants for you, and that's how you get it back. But that's for near in another day. Let's get back to
lobbying, you mean?
Lobbyists.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just checking. I got some messages. Because we've been talking so long, there was a problem in the studio.
Politics, the politicians are not going to work.
Well, you've got to understand politics. That's why I try to move away from the partisan thing, because it affects things. But what happens is people get all, you can't say bad things about this or that. You should be able to have a healthy argument, particularly when it comes to finance, about world leaders if they're affecting things, right? But that's not what happens. But clearly on energy, it affects it. And what's happening is mistakes that have been made aren't being rectified. They're just being blamed for. Not just by politicians, by corporates and bankers. And what's interesting, Jamie Dimon came out and warned about everyone. They just mocked him. Oh, you're a dickhead. Oh, okay. I guess I don't know what I'm doing, And there was another leader, bank leader, come out. And they're right at the coalface, right? I mean, I would suggest Jamie Dimon would know a lot more of what's going on than Jerome Powell or Joe Biden, right? So,
well, here's the funny thing is, if you go back to one of our first videos, we all said the inflation is not transitory, and we're not even bankers or nothing like that. We're just a couple of guys talking about the market,
talking shit. Okay, let's look at oil. Because as I said the other day, it's a 3 or a 5, but to take your profits because it's on the stocks because they just got so far ahead, sell calls, buy puts. And likewise on oil and natural gas. So basically when all the dribblers are in this and they got it wrong, and you could also suggest the way Biden's panicking, it's almost the top of something. Maybe not the top forever, but it's certainly a topping terminus be a 3 or a 5, and natural gas you saw. This is the last bloody, natural oil is kind of the last one standing. But so look at this chart. The bearish one is this, 1, 2, 3. So this is your 4, right? Or it's a 2 of a 5. You can get all the way down here. Just say here's what people misunderstand. It doesn't mean a deal has to be done. If the whole market gets one way, it comes down. Look at natural gas did the other day, and we'll look at that chart in a minute. But look at that. That's your weekly. Look at your daily. Look at this. I mean, it's classic shit that I'm trying to get across the previous highs. You just stay disciplined with this. You don't get too big, because you're not going to always be right? And you just get out and you move on to the next one if you're wrong. But most of the time, majority of the time, you'll know you should know what you're doing every time. But most of the time, you at least know your resistance and support. So look what we got here. And today, what's interesting, we came down and tested. Have I got the right thing? We came down and tested these highs. See that? Always look for the spit, the false break. And that's what it did. Right? And now we're holding just above it. So here's what's interesting. We're at $115, $112, right? And it's still like hanging up here. Okay, and well, look at the 240 on oil. Again, see, these are all technical perfect. That's that high. Plus 3.8. See, it's pretty straightforward. What happens is people tend to get greedy and too big, and they blow out, right? But because these points are worth a lot. Look at natural gas. So the other day, these moves are dramatic. And how many times would I said, if you're a dribbler, don't go near this bastard, right? This is Billy Butcher material, Johnny would say. This here is in minutes. Maybe 20 minutes. I'm trying to think. But this was a Freeport LNG. And now, I can't tell you how many messages I get. Oh, what's Freeport LNG? What they do? What's LNG? What are you trading natty gas for? Right? So look at these things. So know your grid. Remember, 3 or 5, same thing. And so every year we hear this in natural gas. Look, I know it's different in Europe and everything, but we're also $9 versus $2. It's all relevant. You just saw how one LNG just wrecked the price. The question is this, a lot of this movement is LNG? Is it just speculation? The market will teach us, but ask yourself all these questions. Okay, where are our bonds? We've gone on more than what I would like today. We got a lot of stuff to do outside of doing these podcasts. So let's look at bonds today. Probably your most important thing. Okay, so this is your bond price. So bonds have been falling, right? Yields going up, right? So this is before the Fed meeting. Buy the rumor, sell the fact. Look at this. Bond markets know what they're doing. This is what I was saying. I was watching, and it helped me get long the spoos, right? Remember I said, bond guys, Forex guys, right? Watch them. Look what happened here. See that? So Fed, boom, then it exploded. And this is an hourly chart. You bring it down to 5 minutes, see it more specific. Look at the yield. Same thing. A lot of people just know the yield, so that's fine. But watch the price of the futures first. Get to know the bond, because the yield comes after the price, right? So there is a lag in that. It's a bit like SPX versus futures. ES, So there's that. Okay. Tesla, someone wanted us to look at.
Yeah.
So here's an hourly on Tesla. So I've never seen, well, I guess we've seen other stocks like this, but this is a stock that's just full of haters. There, as we all know, there was the cult of Tesla and everyone buying it because they could make money on options and go buy a Lamborghini. But it gets death-ridden all the time, right? So, therefore, it gets very one way. at different times, so it gives you really good trading opportunities. This ran nearly $100 since that low on the 14th, right? So use that, use your spreads, keep it tight at this 60-minute. But if you should watch Tesla, Microsoft, and Apple, because they're such big components and measures of, what's the word, Madawi? The crowd, basically. Apple was a beautiful trader for that today. Here's a 5-minute Apple. Look what it did. And remember the rules on false breaks. Look at this. And then it took off with spoos. So if you're watching these and bond, it gives you confidence if the main things go. It's not always going to work, but you want as many things to make your decision better. You want to get an edge, right? So this went from had a 131 handle, I think. No, it didn't quite. Low 132s. And then look at it rallied to 137. That's $7. So if you're trading options, they got a good spread on them too. You don't have to buy the stock. You don't have to buy 1,000 shares or whatever. Okay. Anything else we wanted to look at stock-wise? I think that's it, right? Oh, Exxon. We may as well look at the stock. As we said, and I actually got hate mail for saying to take profit on Exxon. Look at how, let's forget that bullshit, right? Partisan goes love of stocks too. So look at this. Cajun, it was this far overbought. It had broken 100 for the first time, never pulled back, right? This is a weekly, but let's go to daily. You'll see it more clear. See that? Weekly was way up. So it's all technical, punters and dribblers. And there you have it. And so you wanted to be here in case it gapped down because everyone's one way. And, so it's just like this. Look at this. Almost identical pattern. So we see how it plays out. We're now right at the 50, right, on the daily. So all these things you want to play out properly. This is a fib. I don't know why Murray's not in here, but we'll work that out later. And I think that's about it. Crypto I should look at, yes. So this is Ethereum. This is a weekly chart. It did get all the way down to here. What is that low? 10, 13 it looks like. So anyway, you can see these are violent moves. Now this can be, if you want a bullish thing, I guess if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the trouble is it's in 5 waves. So that does make more and more likely this is a 5th wave complete. I know most people don't want to say that. So, but we want to see if you wouldn't even consider buying this until you got a good 3 waves if you do trading this stuff. If you look at Bitcoin on a 10-minute, guess what it did? It followed Biden today, right? I mean Biden. Powell. Get those guys mixed up. That is the bottom on the S&P, right? After Powell. See that? So this is still, and that's a $2,000 rally. So whether you trade it or not, it's just another way to look at the more speculative side of the market. Well, that's about it for me. We did dribble on a lot about a lot of things. And don't get back with hate mail and all this sort of nonsense over if you love Biden, love Trump, hate this. We are just saying how it affects markets, their policies, and there's probably a reason why we have this picture of traders up today. You could apply it to a lot of things this day and age, right? The old sheep traders, the sheeple politicians, all that sort of stuff. So just try and stand away from your own views. If you're trading, I'm talking about. And try and have a blank canvas when you come in and how these affect the market is what's important. Well, thank you for joining us. We did ramble on a lot longer than what we would have liked. A lot to discuss. Bigger moves ahead, how they're going to come out. Tomorrow you got the natural gas number. You will have the jobs numbers, the monthly ones, amongst other things. So if you like what we're doing, like us, share us, subscribe it. Don't be scared. That all helps the algorithm. So it is good if you do subscribe it. And when we get to it, when it slows down, We will be doing some other stuff, like more explaining different components, like Murray math and stuff that we look, different patterns, etc. Thank you for joining us. Good night. Have a good one.